Hello folks, welcome to the new channel. This is where the sparks are going to fly and some of the things that are really bad in martial arts are going to be exposed. Speaking of things bad in martial arts, today we're talking about the Pedobear and his encounters with the Supreme Court of the United States. Okay, so since the start, let's go into some background of the Pedobear. Like, why do we call him the Pedobear and what has he done? Well, the Pedobear's real name is Ronald Collins Jr. He is basically a rather pathetic piece of humanity. I encountered him way back in the 90s when I was living in Japan on message boards. And he was trying to convince people of all these marvelous feats that he's done. I mean, he was supposedly taught by some ninja master from Japan that nobody else has ever seen because, those ninja masters are really good at invisibility. And, stories like how he was smuggled into Japan as a child to do cage matches. And he tried to, convince people that he was part of the elite unit called Marine Force Recon. Basically, they go way behind enemy lines to recon things, kind of like modern ninjas. The guys that were Marines, former Marines actually shot down those type of stories. They asked questions that he couldn't answer that any Marine would know. As it turns out, he did go to Marine Corps boot camp, but he failed big time. He couldn't handle it. Okay, he dropped out. But for the Japanese side of things, of course, me living in Japan, being fluent in the language and knowledgeable about history, and of course the ninja in particular, I was able to shoot down a lot of stuff. So he didn't like that. As an example of the typical story, he tried to convince people that he was taught oni ki. Oni being the word for ogre in Japanese, ki kind of power. It's the key of aikido and such. And he portrayed it as like this berserker rage that allowed him to just wade into groups and things like that and just start stacking up bodies. Well, as it turns out, there is a word written out with oni and ki, but because of the way the Japanese language works, it was actually pronounced kiki. And it has nothing to do with any type of berserker rage or anything like that. It actually means nausea or nauseating. Yeah. So he and I really don't like each other. I mean, considering the reason why he's called the pedo bear, I don't like him. And because, well, I'm me and he doesn't like me. In fact, there's a video that he put up of him, crashing a seminar that I was giving in Kentucky. He brought along 4 members of the Black Dragon Fighting Society. And, spoiler alert, if you want to watch the video, it's basically after about 15 minutes of me calling him a child molester to his face and things like that. I'm out on the mat saying, "Are we going to do this? Are you're here to challenge me? Are we going to do this?" And he's hugging himself in fear and saying, "I'm going to sue you instead. I'm going to sue. I'm going to sue. I'm going to sue." Obviously, there was never any lawsuit. Um, Now he is not quite all there. Okay, that's an understatement. He every time he has a problem, and he's got a lot of convictions. It's because of a conspiracy, right? Okay, so just to let you know. Follow up to that thing in Kentucky. He later came to Colorado and said he was here to challenge me to a fight. Couldn't do it in Kentucky when I was right there. I had a mat ready because of reasons. So he came to Colorado under the pretext that he was going to challenge me, show up at my doorstep, challenge me to a fight. Thing is, he stayed in Denver. Okay. I'm about an hour, hour and a half south of Denver, depending on circumstances. And he came no closer than Denver. Okay. He talked about how he knew where I lived, how he could burn my house down, talked about roasting marshmallows over the burning corpses of my children. But when a martial arts board found a place where we could get into the gym and go at it, the night before it could happen, he fled back to West Virginia. Right. Later on, to show that he was not a coward and he actually would face someone, he went on something called street beefs and fought someone and lasted a total of 40 seconds. course, he was holding back, right, or something like that. Anyways, uh, so yeah, he decided. Okay, and I'm going to get back to this, right? But Pedobear, why do we call him Pedobear? Well, for one thing, he has more booking mugshots than I have sets of socks. I mean, he has a long history of getting arrested. And a lot of those involved underage girls. He likes them young. One of his most infamous cases was contributing to the delinquency of a minor. I've seen the communications by the victim, and basically, she saw him put pills in a beer and then give it to her and practically force it down her throat. Instead of drinking it, she poured it out. They nailed him to the wall on that. Typically, if you give a minor a beer, it's a slap on the wrist. No, he spent time behind bars for that one because they couldn't prove what type of pills they were, but it's pretty obvious that they weren't aspirin, right? So yeah, so that's why the pedo bear. As for the bear part, Ron's a little over 5 feet, and he's about as wide as he is tall. And when he's got his full unkempt beard, he looks a little bit like a Care Bear on crack. Hence, pedo bear. So yeah, um, so now he has managed to get himself a felony conviction, and he is trying to overturn it with the Supreme Court of the United States. He's asking for people to support him and write in and tell the Supreme Court to see the case. Okay, why is he a felon? Well, glad you asked. A little bit of background again. Again, if you haven't, if you have never heard of the pedo bear, here's some background. So they find kitty porn on his computer. Gee, how did that get there? Must be the conspiracy. Um, yeah, pedo bear. They arrest him for it, but they don't keep him. They let him out on his own recognizance, awaiting trial. Pedo bear gets it in his head that's a good idea to put this blog with things like the photo of the arresting officer's house and talking about how he could burn it down. He could slit the throat, slip into the house and slit their throat as he's sleeping, and how he could go on this killing spree. And then he makes demands that they drop the case and they return the laptop and all these other things. And he, being him, thinks that if he doesn't exactly positively 100% say, unless you do A, I will do B, that he'll be safe and they can't touch him. Didn't work out that way. They arrest him again, this time for making a terrorist threat. And they don't give him bail. And because he's in, jail awaiting trial and they're in close contact with him 24/7, somebody realizes we got to get this guy in front of a psychiatrist. So they do, and the doc finds him nuttier than squirrel turds. He is declared unfit for trial, so he's not charged with the kiddie porn or the terrorist threats, but he does have to spend about 6 months in a mental hospital where they basically do something with his chemicals and all that, pills and such. This is important because, fast forward a while, he is still hurting from basically backing down from me a few times. And he's on his YouTube channel and on his blog screaming that I am a coward because I won't come out and fight him. And I get, something, I get a bit of tequila in me or something like that one night. I say, okay, I'm going to be out there. I'll beat you up. He starts trying to raise the stakes. He says, well, you're going to have to do it on the street. And if we do it on the street, that is a crime. You will be behind bars. I shoot back, yeah, well, we've got all the stuff out in the open and how you are demanding I come out and see you. It is obviously mutual consent. And by the time you wake up in the hospital, I'll be back in Kentucky. So, do you think they're really going to extradite me over mutual consent that you are demanding happening? Again, he's going like, well, okay, so this is going to be no rules. No rules. I can do anything. I can use anything like that. And I'm like, okay, dude. Goes both ways. You put that out in the public. Okay, fine. Someday I'll see you. Okay, at this point, he not only buys a gun, but he makes videos of him buying the gun and showing the world that he is walking around the streets of Beckley, West Virginia, with the gun. This is at the same time when he's saying that I've got to, to prove that I'm not a coward, I have got to come out to West Virginia, find him on the streets of Beckley, West Virginia, and then go into a match where there are no rules and anything can be used, right? You can see where this is going. Again, he's made it clear to the world that he has got a gun and he carries it with him 24/7, demanding that I face him on the streets of Beckley with it. Right. Pedobear. But of course, he did spend time in that mental hospital. As it turns out, if you're wondering, no, if you're in Germany or some other country, no, Americans that are sent to mental hospitals aren't supposed to be able to buy guns. There is a question on the form saying, have you ever been sent to a mental institution against your will? He lies. He puts down no. Okay. The great irony is that he was not put in the system. His name is not on the list of people that can't buy guns. And I honestly think that if he had said yes, if he'd been honest, he could have legally bought the gun. But he thought he was too smart and they wouldn't catch him, even though he's putting up videos and, making all these threats. So yeah, he gets popped for that. He gets convicted. Trial lasted like less than 2 days. Jury debated for less than 30 minutes. I mean, it was open shut. Did he go to a mental institution? Yes. Did he lie in the form? Yes. Okay, open shut case. He's now out and he wants to overturn this case, and he's got the most bizarre legal reasons that, he's giving. And I'm going to link to this, and just as you watch this and have a few chuckles at his expense, realize it has nothing to do with state laws or the interaction between state laws and federal laws. It was a federal form. This is called a federal firearms license form. It is put out by the feds. It's not put out by the states. He lied on it. It is a federal matter. It is a federal felony. End of discussion. And all of his discussions about how, this law should not supersede that law and all that, irrelevant. Okay? And, this is not going to be the last time that he tries to, he gets shot down trying to overturn his felony conviction. He is going to be doing this for the rest of his life. I wrote him in prison, and I gave him the best, honest advice he could hear. If he had followed it, his life would be so much better. He would not be wasting all this time with it. I told him straight out that, I pointed out that I am smarter than him, and that's true. And that I could not do this. I could not overturn a felony in this case. So what chance did he have? And of course, Ron Collins, being Ron Collins, he's got this obsession of proving he's better than me. So he is now determined. I mean, he has already gone to the Supreme Court with this once. And, he is not going to give it up. He is, for the rest of his life, going to be trying to overturn this conviction, which can't be overturned, because he wants to prove to the world that he's better than me. Because I gave him damn good advice, he is determined to do the exact opposite of what I say. And now he is trapped in this. So yes, if you want to see, his, what he's doing, I'm going to link in the description. You can go over and see it. Just realize that, he can't overturn this felony. I mean, for decades, people have been sent to prison on this, and no one with an actual law degree has realized that it's not valid. Right. Again, he's not the brightest, and he's not the most sane person out there. We'll be talking about him more on this channel. If you want to hear more, subscribe, and we'll have some fun. See you later. Bye.